Welcome to 5-Star Company Culture with your host, Josh Cunningham. In this podcast, we explore how culture is the key to unlocking massive profits and unprecedented freedom. Discover insights, strategies, and inspiring stories to transform your life and business. Here's your host, Josh Cunningham.
All right, howdy, and welcome to another episode of our 5-Star Company Culture podcast. My name is Josh Cunningham. I'm your host. I'm also the founder and CEO of rokrbox, which is a done-for-you inside sales assistant service in the real estate space. Over the last 10 years, we've hired and trained over 400 inside sales assistants and managed over 3 million internet leads. Today, I've got a very special guest for you, Mr. Vin Infante from Staten Island, New York. How's it going, Vin?
Josh, doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Certainly. And I wanted to bring Vin on today. Vin is a therapist and mental performance coach and has helped many professionals, entrepreneurs, small business owners, C-suite executives tap into their own personal worth and purpose and mission to get the most out of their lives. And so in conjunction with our 5-Star Company culture program here, we wanted to talk to Vin today about some of that self-discovery of unleashing, the power from within each of us as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as C-level suite executives. So, Vin, why don't you kind of give us a little bit of background story and how you got into your area of expertise over the past few years of your professional career?
Sure thing. Well, I've been in mental health for over a decade now. I've been formerly a therapist. That's my past life. I was doing therapy for about 10 years. Thought that there had to be more, thought there had to be a better way to help people. Stumbled upon coaching, saw Tony Robbins doing his thing. I was like, that guy's phenomenal. He's probably better than, I don't know, every other therapist or coach I've ever met. So I would love to learn what he's up to. Went and got my coaching certification under Tony Robbins' training program, became a strategic intervention coach, and saw that both coaching and therapy, maybe I wasn't being fair, is that both of these have great advantages, just like they have good disadvantages. And as I saw the disadvantages of therapy and the disadvantages of coaching, I said, there's definitely a market for bridging this gap. Mm-hmm. And that's how I started creating this hybrid service where I now work with high performers, which that's what I call them, right? Anyone who's really striving for that next level, who's already achieved a level of success, who've achieved it in business or through moving up the ranks in their companies and hitting that C-suite, or just a flat out entrepreneur, startup founder. Those are the people I love working with because they know how to really take what they've done in life, take it to that next level, and always are looking for the cheat code or the hack or the trick to improve and get at least 1% better every day.
Awesome. And so, over the past couple of years, you've been working with a lot of high performers, as you say, and, same thing here at the 5-Star Company Culture. We're always looking for people to really tap into and be able to be purposeful and pronounce exactly what their desires and their passion are. So what do you see the overlap of that on the personal side and on the business side as well?
I've come to see that the overlap for people performing well in business and in life tends to come from having a very clear vision and being able to articulate it in a way that they could actually look at and follow. So I always, when I work with a company, I always first thing ask, like, what is your mission, vision, and value statements? Why is anyone even working here? What are they even working towards? Why should anyone even hire you for your service or product? Like, what is your mission? How is it making the world a better place? And once we kind of get into that, I also then like to dig in and ask if they have their own personal ones. Like, what is your mission, vision, and value statements? How do you conduct yourself as a man, a woman, an entrepreneur, whatever title you want to hold on to? How are you conducting yourself? Because there's so much overlap. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting too, because one of the things that we see is people get a lot out of not only themselves, but their employees when people feel like there's a greater purpose than themselves. There's been a lot of research to back now that when people feel like they're doing more for others, or they're be part of a collective, so to speak, or maybe a group, that they feel there's this level of inclusion, that they actually will produce at higher levels, because now it's not just about doing for you, it's about doing for others. And we get such a great return on investment emotionally when we're doing for others, right? If you're having a crappy day and you go out and you do something kind for someone, you will feel better. That's something that's like now statistically proven too. So it's always about getting people super clear on what they got going on internally, but how that also extends their environment and those around them.
Awesome. And what would you say are some, key tips that whenever you said your first question out of your mouth when you're working with someone is, what is your mission, vision, core values, your purpose? What are some essential tips that you help people, do some self-discovery if they haven't come up with those yet, or if maybe they've come up with them, but they just sort of swiped them from some other influencer or some other person that they look up to? How do you really help people custom tailor those to exactly, their own core inner desires?
If people really have trouble articulating these things, I've found that one of the best ways to pull it out of people is by asking them what their story is.
Hmm.
A lot of the times people are motivated to do things from their own personal stories. And what we see time and time again is that people are not very rational, they're more emotional.
Hmm.
So if you have trouble and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know what my values are, I don't even know what my mission is, I don't even know what the vision is, where we're going, ask yourself, why did you start in the first place? Like,
Hmm.
what was the reason you started your company? Was there something that happened in your childhood? Like, I could talk about, for instance, myself, why I do what I do, why I created this hybrid service is because I wanted to become the coach or therapist that I needed when I was a kid. I
Hmm.
struggled a lot with depression. I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, panic disorder. I had suicidal ideation, self-harm tendencies, and I was seeing a therapist, and the guy just, I mean, he wasn't helpful. I don't want to say he sucked because I'm sure he helped other people, but he wasn't
Hmm.
helpful for me. And so as I started forming my professional identity, I started thinking about, well, what could have really changed my life when I was a kid going through all of that? What were the things I needed to know or could have helped if I knew, right? And that's how I started building my own personal mission, vision, and values around how do I want to show up as a professional coach? How do I want to help others? And so I based it off of a lot of my story, and then it kind of just blew up from there, right? Because then I started asking, if I'm going to embrace this identity, because identity shapes everything, right? But
Hmm.
if I'm going to embrace this identity, what are the values I would need to uphold? Is integrity one of them? Okay, cool. What would someone who has integrity do? How would they act? How would they show that to the world? And then from creating that value list, it was very clear now. So what's the mission going to be? Why do we even start this thing in the first place? What do we want to do with this company we've just built? Why are we here?
Hmm.
And then what is the vision? Like, where do we want to go in the future? How much impact do you want to have? That's usually how I base it, right? Very successful companies tend to have a lot of impact. So how many people do you want to impact? What's the reach you want to have? What's the scale? If you're, are you happy with impacting one people, 100,000, 100 million? How big do you want to grow? Because that's also going to determine how you have to build out your company.
That's a great story, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, and appreciate the vulnerability there. But it's a great, like you said, connection between you wanted to provide for others what you wish that you would have had, and that's very similarly in line with the career opportunities that we have here at rokrbox, which is our real estate inside sales assistant call solution. We hire Texas A&M students. They're from right across the street at Texas A&M. Is a huge talent pool there, and we bring in the most enthusiastic and energetic callers. And the purpose here at rokrbox, as we say, is to move people forward. And to sum it up, like you said, it's really essentially the job that I wish that I had when I was in college. We're teaching real life skills here for people to get on the phones, learn scripts, objection handlers, learn how to manage different personality styles, learn how to work with CRMs, learn how to work with dialer technology. All of these skills are setting them up for success in their future professional career. And like I said, just like you said, it's the job that I wish that I would have had when I was in school. And so when you start on a mission, on a purpose, with so much passion and energy and enthusiasm into bringing something to life that you are totally um, passionate about, and you are absolutely set on the fact that this is something that must come to life, this is something that must exist, it makes all the ups and the downs and the valleys in between the peaks so much more bearable and so much more worthwhile, because you can look up to the mountain top that you're climbing, and the peaks that you're looking to conquer. So definitely appreciate you sharing that, and it's very much aligned with a lot of the purpose that we have here at rokrbox. And you can see that when you work with highly successful businesses and high performers as well, that when you see that they have a passion and there's meaning and purpose behind the work that they do, it makes a lot of the other stuff, because we're always going to have curveballs. We're always going to get our teeth kicked in. We're always going to have life come our way, but it makes it so much easier to endure the tough times when you have, a higher vision and a higher purpose for making that climb and overcoming that adversity. So, any specific tips that you have to provide for people who are, again, maybe looking to overcome that adversity, looking to push through the uncomfortableness, to grow out of, the person that they are to the person that they want to become? Any top tips that you'd like to share with our viewers here today?
Well, the way that I like to break everything down is everything comes to identity.
Hmm.
So when we think about how do we need to build ourselves, it's more about asking not how do we build ourselves, but who do we want to become? And so if everything comes down to identity, it's a very simple process that I always lay out for people. And so it starts off with determine what the identity is, right? Like, who do you see yourself as? What is your titles, right? Because I don't look at leadership as a title. I look at it as multiple titles.
Hmm.
So if you're a father, if you're a son, if you're a boyfriend or a husband, if you're an entrepreneur, that's 4 titles right there. You
Hmm.
can't quit any of those titles, can you? I mean, sure, you could divorce your wife or break up with your girlfriend. You could quit your business.
Hmm.
You can't ever stop being a father or a son, though. I mean, you
Hmm.
technically could, right? You could be estranged from your mom and never talk to her again, and you could abandon your kid, but chances are you won't do that.
Hmm.
And so you're going to hold at least 2 of those titles, even if the girl and the business fail. So now it's about asking, okay, if I'm a son and a father, how do I want to show up in each of those? What would a good son look like? What would the things that a good son would do be? How would he speak? How would he make his parents feel? How would he show respect to his parents? How would he show love to his parents? And now you could ask those questions. And then same as a father. How do I want to parent my child? What would I like my child to know growing up? How do I want my child to learn? What would I like my child to think? What's the perspective I want them to have of the world? Now it's another 5 things. So as you see, if you dig into the titles you already have, now you could actually start building a powerful identity, because now you could say, okay, if I'm a father, if I'm a son, if I'm an entrepreneur, if I'm a boyfriend, let's do one more. If I am a fitness enthusiast, there's 5 titles now.
Hmm.
You have an identity for each of those that you need to show up in. Now, do you need to show up in them every day? Do you need to show up in every other day? What's the frequency? What's the consistency? What would the reps that you have to put in look like? And so it gets very, very granular, and it starts broad, right? It starts like, I'm just a dad, but what does that then turn into?
Hmm.
So the first thing I encourage people to do is understand the identities they hold. Then look at what are the behaviors that they're exhibiting. What are the things that you're doing daily that are in line with that, or out of alignment with that? Because we
Hmm.
want you in alignment, right? And so if you're acting out of alignment, you're going to find that your quality of life is probably not that great. From there, we want to look at what are the actions you're taking. Actions are dictated by your moment to moment decisions. However, if you're not clear on the identity and the values you hold, it's very easy to take actions outside of the realm of what you would like to happen in your life, because you're not fully in control, you're not fully aligned. So we want to look at what are the daily actions. From there, we look at your behaviors, right? Your habits. Your habits are formed by your daily actions.
Hmm.
Now, these habits are things that you're just going to do every single day, right? Like if you're a fitness person, you have to go to the gym every single day, or every other day, or 5 times a week, whatever you've decided your regimen is. But you have to do it because now it's a part of who you are, right?
Hmm.
And lastly, it's going to give you your results in life. So look at the results you currently have in your life. And if the results you currently have in your life are not things that you're happy with, maybe you're kind of fat and you're out of shape. Maybe your kid doesn't like talking to you or hanging out with you. Maybe you get annoyed at your mom and you don't have a good relationship with her. If these are the results you're getting, clearly there is an identity crisis, because the life you would like to be living is in alignment with the results you have.
Hmm.
So you need to go back and you need to audit your identity. You need to say, what are the things that I'm doing that I could change that will get me more in alignment with all of these things? And as you fix the identity and you know what results you want, now it's just a matter of changing that middle part, right? The behaviors, the actions, and the habits.
Hmm.
So I always tell people, really look at this. And even though I gave it in more of a personal breakdown, right? Like how somebody could do this to transform their personal life,
Yeah,
you could also transmute this to your business.
exactly.
Because if you look at it like your business isn't getting the results, what's the issues, right? What's the day in, day out issues that are occurring that you're not getting the results? In fact, part of the reason I like people to have these mission, vision, and value statements is because you want a 5-star culture. You need to have a hiring process around your company's values and people being willing to buy into the mission and people wanting to see the vision come to fruition. That means they'll stick around for a while. So if you're not hiring people, building your teams, and making sure that the culture is in alignment with your mission, visions, and values, chances are your business is going to be out of alignment of where you want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to be stuck somewhere. And so it really just requires these audits, even how we just audited your personal identity, audit your business identity.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a ton of people leaving reviews saying your company is fraudulent or whatever, what's the identity you guys are holding? Why are you getting such bad reviews, right?
Yeah.
So everything really just comes down to that. How do we audit the identities of ourselves and our businesses?
Yeah. Yeah. Being a student of the results, that's incredibly important. And we know those results come from the actions that you take. And obviously those actions are inspired by the way that we feel, right? The emotional state that we're in, the current feelings that we're evoking. But of course, you back it up to the original step, which is those thoughts and those beliefs. Like you said, what are the thoughts and beliefs that you're subscribing to that are putting you in that emotional state that are causing you to take the action that end up in those results? Like you said, you might have a bunch of crappy reviews online. You might have really high turnover from your employees. You know, you spend all this time hiring someone, bringing them into the organization, throwing all the training content material at them, you know, investing in having a trainer. I mean, there's so much time, energy, effort put into bringing someone onto your team just to have them, you know, leave the organization within a couple of months or a year. I was reading a study recently that said, most companies need to make sure that their core values are aligned with their people, because it was almost like 70% of people, said that they didn't feel that their company's core values aligned with their own personal interests, and that they were looking for employment elsewhere. So yeah, making sure that, like you said, being a student of the results, being able to rewind it all the way back to what is the internal dialogue, what are the thoughts and the emotions and the beliefs that you have internally that are causing you to have those results. So one last thing I'd love for you to share. We were talking before we got on the podcast here about the different stages of personal growth and development. I know you and I are both just really addicted to, personal growth and development, and there's a million different, sources of content and information and different forms of media to digest it in. Why don't you give our audience here your take on personal growth and development, the different stages of people being able to acquire and adapt and grow and learn more information to make themselves a better version of themselves?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people struggle with everything, right? But a lot of people struggle to get started, especially because there's so many influences, right? Like you go learn from Brendan Burchard, Jim Quick, David Goggins, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Jay Shetty, right? Like I'm naming the top of the top. And so it could get very confusing because also everyone's got different types of personas. You get Jay Shetty, who's basically like a monk still. And then you have David Goggins, who's like, screw everything you feel. Like, if you're not doing it, your inner bitch wins. And so you also have a lot of very drastically different personalities. It's important to see who you most connect with, right? And so in the stages that I was discussing before is whenever you get into self-development, anything you do, if you've never done it, anything you do is going to be helpful. Go listen to a podcast, read a book, check out a free group, whatever the case is. And that general info is going to, one, start changing how you think about life. And number two, it's also going to start showing you who you're more drawn to. So it's important to just kind of take in everything and see what sticks. And this is the cheapest and easiest level to invest in. A book's like, what, $20? You go find a million free groups out there. Everybody has a free group. So it's not very hard to get into this. The number two is where you need more specific info. Now you kind of understand like what's been helpful, what's not really helpful, who you like, who you don't like. And now you want to start investing at a higher level where you start getting into different communities. Maybe you're looking into masterminds, you're attending events or seminars. And this is where you're going to get a lot more specific dialed in info. But it's still very general, right? So you join a mastermind, it's going to be maybe 10, 20 people if it's a smaller group, or 100 or so if it's a bigger group, right? And so it's specific to those people because now it's more niched, but it's not like they're talking straight to you. They're not just like, hey, Josh, this is your issue. And then the last tier, and this is tier 3, and this is the highest tier. This is usually where the heaviest investment comes in, but it's the most worthwhile. You've been through all the stuff. You've been through the free stuff, the cheap stuff, the communities, the groups. Now you're ready for that specific intervention. Now you know, okay, these are the specific things I have to work on. I've done a lot of investment and working on myself. Now I need someone to actually call me on my stuff specifically. I don't need to be in a room where someone is telling, hey, all of you business owners, now you need to be with that one person who's going to be like, hey, Josh, this is what your specific problem is. So level 3 is that top tier investment where you're kind of getting that one-to-one interaction of coaching or therapy or teaching or mentoring, whatever you need, but it's going to be dialed into your specific issues in life to give you the most clarity and actionable steps, because now it's just personalized. Like you can't get any higher than this. So I always tell people kind of go on that tier pattern list or see where you're at, see what you need most, and then just kind of make the leap into that. And how you would know you're ready for the next tier? I would say you're ready for the next tier when, one, the investment makes sense. Like there's people who can't justify spending thousands of dollars on a one-to-one coach. And that's fine, because that's also the person who probably hasn't done much work on themselves and they don't see the value in investing even $100 to a seminar or a course. So it's also looking at, are you ready to invest monetarily? You would know what tier you're at. Number 2, how much time have you put into yourself? And number 3 is, if you're still getting good insights from very general info, that means that you're not really ready for that personalized step. That means you're probably more in the lower tiers, and there's nothing wrong with those lower tiers. It's just, that's where they're at, right? So these are some of the ways you can kind of understand what tier you're at, what tier you're ready for.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, appreciate you coming on the show today. Got a lot of great nuggets of information there from your perspective of, again, being a therapist and mental performance coach. Any last thoughts or ideas that you want to share with the audience here about, really being able to unlock that personal potential to then, as an entrepreneur and business owner or high performer, as you like to phrase it, really create that 5-star company culture in their organization?
Yeah, I would give one piece of info and two resources. One is the point of a goal is never about the goal itself. That's where people get caught up. They think it's about the thing. The point of a goal is actually to challenge you to evolve into the person you want to become to live out that goal. The only reason you're not living out that goal is because you're not yet that person. So again, goes back to kind of an identity of like, who do you need to become? Who do you need to be day in and day out? And that's kind of where they talk about the mystical woo stuff of manifesting. It's not like you don't really manifest, but you do, right? It's like once you become that person, life surrounding you is your dream life, right? Because now you're the person in your dream life. So one is really just like audit your identity day in and day out. And number 2 is I have a free resource on my website that people can download if they go to www.vincentinfante.life and you go to the resource tab. And it's about creating a mission board, which is basically casting a vision for your life, getting that massive clarity of who you want to become. And it's a 10-page template, step-by-step. You guys can download it for free. And if anybody wants additional help or support, check out my social media. Instagram is at vin.infante. And you could also book a free strategy session on my website, and we could have a talk about where you're trying to go with your life and maybe how you could get some direction to go there. So these are the things I have if people want some support and help. And I definitely recommend checking out my free content on social media because it is good stuff.
Awesome, man. Well, Vin, it's been a pleasure connecting with you again today, and always appreciate our conversations together. Always get a lot that I take away from it. So really do appreciate that. But thanks again, guys, for listening, and join us again in the future weeks for more guests with people that are going to help you build that 5-star company culture, unlock that personal and business freedom in your life. So thanks again, Vin, and thanks again for watching. You guys take care.
Thank you for tuning in to 5-Star Company Culture with Josh Cunningham. Embrace these lessons to elevate your business and join the ranks of thriving organizations. Stay tuned for more episodes. And until next time, remember, culture is the key to your success.